Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, where I talk about vampires, werewolves, and other supernatural creatures. In previous videos, we have looked at the top 5 vampires from movies, TV, and now we'll look at the top 5 strongest vampires from video games. I did my best to compare their strength, speed, special abilities, and weaknesses. If you enjoy videos like this, maybe subscribe and check out my other content. You can also become a member if you want to support the channel. Also, if you guys haven't, you should definitely still check out the Vampire World series of audiobooks. I'm still listening to them and enjoying them quite a bit. Quick warning, there's obviously some spoilers in this video, but now let's talk about the top 5 strongest vampires from video games.
Is this a dream? Am I awake? Is this anger I feel? Is it wrath?
Coming in at number 5, the Red Queen. No, not from Resident Evil, from the video game Vampire. I've heard nothing but good things about this game and played it for the first time while making this video. The Red Queen is an ancient vampire. She is one of the first, if not the first, vampire in this universe. She is also known as the Morrigan, the Red Goddess, and the Queen of Blood. The origins of the Red Queen are quite mysterious. No one knows when she was created or who created her. What we do know is that she slumbers under London and every few centuries awakens, causing disaster and plagues. As far as we know, all vampires in the series are related back to her bloodline. Sometime during the Red Queen's life, she gave birth to Mirrodin, who became her rival. Although they are adversaries and he wants her to be defeated, Mirrodin seems to still care for his mother to some degree. She causes bad things and plagues to happen by using bitter and resentful women as her vessels to wreak havoc, known as disasters. This one's kinda mutated like the T-virus or something. This eventually causes her son Mirrodin to transform a human into a vampire in order to stop her. The Red Queen is quite powerful and has many supernatural abilities. Much like her son, her true form is an avatar made of blood. Since it says Red Queen's avatar, maybe this isn't her true form. She appears as a humanoid woman with horns made of blood. She sometimes uses 2 large sickles as weapons in close quarters combat, but has many ranged abilities. The Queen is very strong, able to effortlessly pick up a vampire with one hand. She is also very fast, being able to use her powers to almost teleport toward the player. She is usually fast enough to get out of the way of an attack. But if she doesn't, the Queen has an insane amount of health and is very resilient to damage. Gunshots at point blank range do almost nothing. The Queen's most important ability is probably her hemokinesis, the ability to manipulate blood. She can cause large explosions of blood that deal a lot of damage to the player, generate a wave of blood around her, and probably anything else she wanted to do involving blood. During the final boss fight, the Queen can even summon entities from the blood that will fight on her behalf. Usually I don't judge someone's followers or army, but she's basically summoning these things with her magic and they're kind of an extension of her. Like Alucard being able to summon souls that he's absorbed. The Queen's abilities also allow her to fly or hover in the air, and I think being able to fly is a huge advantage over an opponent if they can't. You can easily stay out of harm's way or attack from the sky, which is always deadly, especially when you're as fast as the Red Queen. As for weaknesses, the Queen doesn't really have any of the traditional vampire weaknesses. She is weak to vampire magic, which is why her son turned you into a vampire in the first place. Other than that, it just comes down to being able to do a crazy amount of physical damage, which makes the playfield pretty even. You won't be able to use any cheats like kryptonite when fighting the Red Queen. Her healing abilities are also amazing, so even if you do some damage, you'll have to finish her quickly or it will all be for nothing. The Red Queen is a formidable opponent with physical strength, speed, flight, and some powerful magical abilities. There was some other contenders for this spot, but I think she's well deserving. Now let's see how the next vampire compares.
Yes, always the noble vampire hunter. And what happens when you've slain me? Is Valerica next? Is Serana?
The number 4 spot goes to Lord Harkin from Skyrim. Harkin is one of the main characters in the Dawnguard DLC for the open world game Skyrim. He is the leader of the vampire clan Volkihar. His goal is to fulfill a prophecy and black out the sun so that vampires can rule. Volkihar vampires can very easily pass for humans, which isn't the case for all vampires. Lord Harkin became a vampire differently than most. Usually, someone is bitten by a vampire and infected with the curse. Almost all vampires can be traced back to the first, LeMay Belphage, who was turned by the Daedric prince Molag Bal. Harkin, however, cannot be traced back to her, because he wasn't turned by another vampire. He was gifted vampirism directly from Molag. Harkon supposedly sacrificed 1,000 innocents, and for this, Molag rewarded him by turning him and his family into what is known as pure-blood vampires. This means that they are stronger because their bloodline hasn't been diluted, and it also gives them unique abilities that other vampire clans do not have. Most notably, they don't burn in the sun, instead are just weakened by it. They also have one other special ability that I will talk about soon. Harkon is the father of Serana and the former husband of Valerisa, two other very strong Volkihar vampires. Some people have speculated that Serana was loosely based on Selene from the Underworld series. As the curse of vampirism takes hold, a person will gain access to new unique spells, like being able to drain someone's blood. Certain spells like illusion spells are stronger when cast by a vampire. The Volkihar clan has a special ability to transform into a vampire lord, an extremely powerful form that vastly increases physical strength, speed, healing, and grants the player the ability to use blood magic. The vampire lord can turn into a swarm of bats and even knock people back in this form, but not kill them. You can also detect all creatures around you, alive or undead. Vampire lords also demonstrate the ability to use supernatural reflexes to perceive time as if it's almost standing still. This form is extremely strong and can move very fast across the ground with assistance from its large wings. It can obviously fly as well. They can also take this form a few times a day and still revert back to their more human-looking form. As far as blood magic, the go-to spell for the Vampire Lord form is Drain Life, a powerful spell that drains the victim and kills them. Blood magic can also raise the dead. You can reanimate almost any creature for a short amount of time to fight for you. Vampire Lords can also use Vampiric Grip, which is basically like telekinesis and allows them to lift enemies off the ground and throw them. Volkihar vampires are extremely dangerous, especially in their Vampire Lord form. Lord Harkon is absolutely a contender for the strongest vampire in Skyrim, and I think deserved a spot on this list. Very strong, fast, can fly, and has a vast amount of unique abilities and blood magic. As far as weaknesses, I mentioned sunlight already. It weakens them and they won't regenerate, but it doesn't burn them like other vampires. They are also weak to fire, so not too many weaknesses, but a good amount of abilities and strengths to even it out. Now let's see who could be stronger than the leader of the Volkihar clan. Coming in at number 3, we have Rain from the game Blood Rain. Rain was born in the early 20th century as a human in Eastern Europe. Her human mother was taken advantage of by a vampire, and Rain was the result of that terrible act. This made her half vampire, also known as a Dhampir. Her vampire father later drove her mother insane, killed her, and killed the rest of her family so that he would be the only one that she could turn to. It wasn't personal though. He did this with all vampires that he turned or created so that they would be loyal to him and only him, to be used in his goal to create an army to rule over the human race. Rain is well known for her signature outfits, and she's actually 6 feet tall and wears 6-inch platforms, so she's 6'6" in her outfit. As a teenager, Rain discovered that she had unique abilities. She had incredible speed, strength, and agility, and her senses were heightened beyond that of a normal human being. She went on to become a deadly vampire hunter for the Brimstone Society, a group that hunts down supernatural creatures to protect humanity. Her agent codename is Blood Rain. Her signature weapons are her twin arm blades. In the non-canon comic book called Twin Blades, it explains where they came from. They are steel blades forged inside a furnace that had a special blue flame due to a magical brimstone that was left behind in our world by demons. The blades are a custom shape for extra function. Rain got the blades from the original maker, Declan Finney, in 1932, who was a Dhampir himself. Again, it's non-canon, but I thought this was pretty interesting. Rain also has a chain harpoon that's stored under her wrist, and it can shoot out about 40 feet like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. She also has special pistols for killing vampires, known as the Carpathian Dragons. These dual-wield pistols take blood from Rain's victims with large syringes or from Rain herself. It then forms this blood into solid bullets that can kill vampires and humans alike. Because of the unique way this pistol functions, full vampires cannot use it, only Dhampirs.
And extremely dangerous. Listen, if they're the real Carpathian dragons, they feed from the blood of their Dhampir host. That's you in this case. They alchemically process the raw material into vampire lethal projectiles. You're gonna have to feed to fill their reservoirs. You can still use them when their reservoirs are empty, but they'll draw blood directly from you.
Rain's abilities as a half-vampire are very impressive. She has decelerated aging, able to live hundreds if not thousands of years. She has superhuman strength, seen breaking through metal and concrete, and agility, able to easily jump around 20 feet straight up in the air, making her a formidable opponent in combat. She can also heal very quickly from injuries, and extremely quickly if she feeds. Feeding from certain vampires is even more powerful, allowing her to heal to full health almost instantly. When Rain feeds on blood, this adds to her rage, which can be used to perform special abilities. Blood Rage allows Rain to attack with much more strength than she usually does. Normal vampires in this state would totally lose control, but her unique magical blades allow her to maintain her Blood Rage but still stay in control. Rain can perform some devastating attacks this way, such as Bloodstorm. This is a hurricane of blood that instantly disintegrates most enemies around her. Large enemies might not always be turned to dust, but they will still take considerable damage. Rain can also use her abilities to essentially slow down time from her perspective. In her strongest form, Rain can perceive the world so fast that time almost stops, and on top of that, she can move so fast that the human eye cannot even see her. These abilities drain her rage, so they can only be used temporarily. So although these abilities can't be used over and over again, they're insanely strong. Being able to move as fast as Quicksilver from the X-Men is a huge flex. She has the ability to enthrall enemies. An aura ghost projects from her body and can take control of someone to fight on her behalf. Rain can deal insane damage, but she can also take a lot of damage. Being hit by large creatures, gunshots, and explosives barely harm her. She is immune to disease and poison, never gets tired, and due to her half-vampire genes, she has a great healing ability. Like I said before, her wounds heal faster than a human and pretty much instantly if she feeds on blood. On top of her strength and healing ability, she has a lack of vampire weaknesses due to her status as a Dhampir. Holy items like crosses have no effect on her, neither do stakes to the heart. The only species-specific weaknesses she has is water, which will burn her skin like acid. It doesn't even have to be holy water, just regular water will burn her. She is also weak to sunlight, but she won't burn up in the sunlight and turn to ash like normal vampires, but if exposed for long enough, she will eventually die. Something I thought was interesting is that Blood Rain is the first video game character that appeared in a Playboy magazine in the October 2004 US edition as part of an article entitled "Gaming Grows Up." I think Blood Rain is stronger than a lot of vampires, including the Red Queen and Harkin, because of her many vampire abilities, proficiency with weapons, and her very strong powers like Bloodstorm and her ability to basically stop time and move at super speed. Plus her healing and resistance to physical damage is impressive, especially for a half-vampire. But being a half-vampire doesn't always mean you're weaker. I mean, look at D from Vampire Hunter D. Now let's see who could be stronger than Rain.
Etzelthi, laut mi ama. You live.
At the number 2 spot, we have the Unseen Elder from The Witcher. Vampires are powerful creatures in The Witcher. They can be a little confusing though. There are lower vampires, which consist of different species, and then there's higher vampires, which also have subspecies like the Bruxa from the Witcher TV show. A true higher vampire is like the character Regis, human looking with a slightly altered form they can take with long nails. And most importantly, no weaknesses. The Bruxa is considered a higher vampire, but is still weak to silver because it's a monster. And there's a few other cases like this as well. True higher vampires are the only vampires with no weaknesses to holy objects or silver. The strongest of them all is the Unseen Elder, a kind of leader for their race. The older a vampire is, they have more say, and the worse the punishment is for disobeying them. Vampires came into the world of The Witcher during an event known as the Conjunction of the Spheres. The Unseen Elder now guards the gate between their worlds. He doesn't like being bothered by anyone, higher vampires included. The Elder lives in a cave that can only be opened by special crystals, and these crystals are only owned by higher vampires. So if you're not a higher vampire, you're likely never going to meet the Unseen Elder, and even most higher vampires will probably never meet him. While speaking to the Elder, you must be extremely careful not to irritate him in any way, or he will literally insta-kill you. Walk in without your higher vampire friend at your side, he will also instantly kill you. Even higher vampires, who are almost universally feared, tremble in the presence of the Unseen Elder. You would only bother the Elder if you had a very important problem, because just going to see him is risking your life. Although he looks frail, he can move at almost instant speeds and is insanely strong. and he can paralyze other vampires by just uttering a word. His speed is so impressive that even the supernatural Witcher cannot even detect his movement until he's already appeared somewhere else in the room. He can also summon any vampire to him, and they must heed his call. Lower vampires, higher vampires, doesn't matter. With one word, they arrive, ready to serve. The only way to kill a higher vampire is for the killing blow to be dealt by another higher vampire. They're not weak to stakes, fire, decapitation, holy objects, silver, or anything else. If you're not a higher vampire, you can't kill them. And since most vampires work together, you usually won't find one willing to help you. Most humans will go their entire life without ever meeting a higher vampire. They keep to themselves. A higher vampire once had his head cut off, stabbed with stakes, holy water poured on his body, and buried. It took him around 50 years to recover from this, but he did fully recover with no problems. You can burn them alive, crush them, cut them to pieces, but they will always recover eventually. It's possible the Unseen Elder is even harder to kill, but as far as we know, he could be killed by another higher vampire, if there was one strong enough. The Unseen Elder does not have any magic spells or attacks, just his insane physical strength and speed, plus heightened senses and his command over pretty much all other vampires. Their healing abilities are great, and he also has no weaknesses, plus he can only be killed by a higher vampire. I think the Unseen Elder, Guardian of the Gate Between Worlds, is definitely deserving of this spot. I had a hard time deciding between the Elder or Bloodrain for this spot, but I think it's the way that The Witcher portrays the Unseen Elder is what makes me think that he is so strong. Geralt of Rivia, the strongest of the Witchers and a very powerful opponent, is killed in the blink of an eye by the Unseen Elder. If that's not a testimony to his power, I don't know what is. So who could be the most powerful vampire from a video game? In the number 1 spot, we have Cain from the Legacy of Cain series. He was a 30-year-old nobleman wandering the land. He stopped at a tavern but couldn't get a place to stay for the night. He ventured on, but was ambushed by a band of brigands and murdered. He found himself trapped in the underworld, fixated on his murderer. He is offered a chance for revenge by the necromancer Mortanius. Cain accepts, and when he awakens, he realizes that he is now a vampire. Throughout 2,000 years, he has drank thousands and thousands of liters of blood, traveled through time, and become quite a force to be reckoned with. He is literally hundreds if not thousands of times stronger than he was in his first video game appearance. For centuries, he fought to restore the land of Nosgoth and restore vampires to their rightful place as rulers. He wields the insanely powerful blade known as the Soul Reaver. This blade is indestructible and can absorb souls and magic. The more souls it absorbs, the more powerful it becomes. And after absorbing the soul of Raziel, the sword can perform interdimensional attacks. It can also manipulate energy, elements, and can even disrupt and warp reality itself, similar to D from Vampire Hunter D. The blade is almost as strong as Cain himself and amplified his already crazy power to new levels. It's said that the blade is older than any of them and 1,000 times more deadly. As far as Cain's physical strength, he can lift somewhere in the range of 10 tons or 20,000 pounds. But he has defeated enemies much stronger, so he can probably lift much more. After drinking blood, his power is amplified and Cain is even stronger. He is also able to dodge most attacks and even lightning strikes cast by his enemies, so he is extremely fast. He is capable of teleportation, able to vanish and appear in different places at will. He can also turn into a wolf form and move faster than he can in his vampire form. Or in his bat form, he can move across a whole city in just a few minutes. He can also shapeshift into a mist. Cain himself can cast lightning and fire to burn his enemies, as well as many other arcane spells. He also has the ability to use what is basically blood magic. With the spell, or Move Blood Shower, he can remove the blood from everyone within a 10 to 15 meter radius, or around 30 to 50 feet. Cain can also shoot projectiles made of his blood that will extract blood from the victim for Cain if it hits them. He has another projectile that can freeze enemies in place, and another that can remove someone's soul from their body. He has telekinesis, mind control, and many other magic-like abilities. For this list, he probably has the largest arsenal of different spells and weapons at his disposal. He can even gain new abilities by killing strong vampires and absorbing their abilities. To match his offensive ability, he also has great resistance to physical trauma and a good healing ability. He can also generate an energy field that can deflect magic. His sword contains the soul of Raziel, a being created by him. Somehow, through some crazy stuff, he ended up with 2 Soul Reavers occupying the same space and time. Due to this paradox, he is free from the Wheel of Fate and Circle of Death, so he's done some pretty crazy stuff. Cain has also taken the role of something known as the Scion of Balance, and is tied to something called the Pillars of Nosgoth. Because of this, beyond being a vampire, this position allows him to be truly immortal. He can be wounded, but can only be killed by his own weapon, the Soul Reaver.
I have delivered you faithfully to the very hour you desire. You know what must be done, Cain.
Cain took the #1 spot because of his huge range of powerful spells and abilities. His physical strength is one of the strongest in my opinion based on feats he's done in the games, and he has great healing, magic defense, and he can only be killed by a special weapon, so he only has one weakness. I actually do have a few honorable mentions. First, Dracula from Castlevania. He's tormented video game players around the world for decades. He can transform into a giant monster, teleport, shoot fire, and not to mention sick his entire army of undead on you. My other honorable mention would have to be Cain from Vampire the Masquerade. He only appears in one video game and very briefly, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. He appears as a cabbie and at the very end of the game, but it's only really implied that he is Cain. If you have a Malkavian, that they will instinctually react with great fear to the cab driver. Ask him very interesting questions that are followed by even more interesting answers. In Vampire the Masquerade, Cain is the son of Adam and Eve, cast out of the Garden of Eden for killing his brother. His power was unleashed by a ritual performed by Lilith, and he went on to create almost all the disciplines or magic abilities used by vampires today. He is extremely strong, but he doesn't really appear much in the video games, so that's why I decided to leave him as an honorable mention. If you're interested in the vampires from The Witcher, or Cain from Vampire the Masquerade, I actually have made videos on both of those topics before. That's my video on the top 5 strongest vampires from video games. In my opinion, of course. I did my best to compare their strengths, special abilities, and weaknesses fairly, and think about how they would fare against an opponent of the same strength or each other. I don't cover games much, but I hope you enjoyed because I had a lot of fun making this video. If you'd like me to make a full video about the Unseen Elder, Legacy of Cain, or any other movies or TV shows, let me know down in the comments below. I always read through them, and you guys never let me down with great suggestions. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, and subscribe if you haven't. It helps out a lot, and I really appreciate it. An extra big thanks to my channel members Roderick, Steven556, Owen Wildish, Joseph Roman, Awesome Pea Shooter, Jason Miller, and Cyper. Your extra support means a lot. Also, I just wanted to say, if you decide to become a member and eventually cancel, I'm still going to leave the names up at the end of the video. If it gets to be too many names, I might not be able to read them all, but I feel like if you've gone out of your way to support my channel like that, the least I can do is leave you in the video, because I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.